Sorry for the ads. A love letter to the 12 principles of animation. Okay.
The 12 principles are the
Oh my
foundational
god,
building
what
blocks
is
behind
that?
every animation ever made. Developed by the animators that worked with Walt Disney in the 1930s, they are considered the rules of the game. But we would have to wait until 1981 for them to be first printed on
The Illusion of Life.
The Illusion of Life.
The Illusion of Life, and it's a magnificent book. Would you welcome
How
please
much
Frank
it
Thomas
costs?
and Ollie Johnston.
It
How
was a
much it
quote from
cost?
this book that inspired this video. In 1923, when it came to animation, people felt that everything had been done that was possible. That was 100 years ago when animation looked like this. But how can these principles remain constant in a medium that is always changing? Could this
Look
be
at
why
this, so
animators
beautiful.
are struggling to learn the 12 principles of animation?
You have entertained all of us for so many years, and
How
yet
much
the
does
general
it
public
cost,
never gets to see the guys
this
behind
book?
the scenes.
In the 1920s, there was an exodus of newspaper comic artists into a new medium. But how did they learn? There was a single book on what was considered animation, animated cartoons by E.G. Lutz.
Okay, how much it
very
costs?
elementary techniques to make a drawing move. From the beginnings of cycles, effects using symbols and text, you could really feel the influence that comics had on early animation. But it was enough for Walt and his team to create films like this.
And this was called the rubber hose school of animation.
There were no solid limbs, and when they showed emotions, lines would float in the air. To keep striving for
cute.
innovation, Walt created the silly
You know
symphony
this
to massive success.
traditional
They had a more
piano
artistic
music.
approach, and he instructed his
Spooky,
animators to use
scary,
them as a playground to
scared.
find the next breakthrough. Animators like Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, who would co-write The Illusion of Life and who joined Disney in 1934. They were a part of a select group of artists in their 30s who Walt jokingly called the 9 Old Men, and who became the supervisors and directors of all their following productions. Through the silly
Oh, yeah,
symphonies,
they're really
these
nine,
men
I
were
count them.
responsible for innovations like cycles
my God.
and repeat actions. Nobody knew anything really. They just continued to search for better methods of relating drawings to each other. And as each of these processes acquired a name, it was talked about and analyzed. And without them knowing, the principles were born. With studios heavily relying on rotoscoping live-action footage thanks to Max Fleischer's invention, they noticed something they didn't expect. Even though humans are very solid, body proportions just seem to change on film.
Oh,
So they
cute,
started
look at
adding this
this.
to all their animations to make them look more realistic. And thus, Squash and Stretch was born. Looking for ways to test what they were finding in a faster way, they developed the bouncing ball. This would be a training
Me
passed
did
on
so
from
many
generation
bouncing
to
ball.
generation, as it is surprisingly rewarding for what can be learned. By trying to understand Squash and Stretch with this exercise, they ran into the secrets of timing. However much time each bounce lasted in the air gave a completely different effect. They also noticed if the timing didn't match, then the ball stayed on the ground too long. However, this created a sort of hop, giving the illusion that the object was alive.
Oh,
This was the
kinda,
key
yeah.
to anticipation. Otherwise, they would miss the gags when they came, which happened often in the early days. When animation was black and white, it was easy for limbs to get lost. For example, Mickey's hands on top of his chest would just disappear. This made them start paying attention to silhouette. Nothing was drawn that was not part of the idea. Slowly, character actions became something that breathes or it doesn't breathe. So audiences could see the beautiful poses that animators had crafted. When they filled in the in-betweens, they started to draw them very close to the first and final poses. This was the base
look
for
at them
acceleration
dancing,
and
lol.
deceleration, and allowed them to control the
This
spacing
is
of
like
drawings.
public already.
One
Can
day,
I watch
almost
these
by accident,
animations
someone
without
made a
getting
series of drawings
copyright?
that looked far better than anything done before. He was using
What?
motion arcs in his
Dragon?
actions. Imaginary lines flowed through each drawing of the series, creating a pleasing smoothness.
Ooh.
Most animators had adopted the pose-to-pose method of animation. They were just concerned about the actions that needed to happen in a scene, with no attempt to relate one pose to another. They were not aware of this method's brilliant future. With the discovery of breakdowns, it allowed things to drag, others to lead, and overlap was added to characters, making them feel flexible and believable. This allowed them to tackle complex actions where there was a main action and a
Cards?
secondary action supporting the main one. But what was the limit? They needed a character that allowed them to test just how much is too much. Thus, Goofy was born. Turns out in
Really?
animation, exaggeration is a spectrum that can be pushed infinitely. Having learned so much from these tests while polishing their skills gave birth to appeal, placing things not where they are anatomically correct but where they look the best. Solid drawing combined with squash stretch also gave another dimension, no pun intended, to the characters on screen. Since the first Silly Symphonies, they tried to portray 3D volume in a 2D space. This was not uncommon in animation, but needed incredibly solid basis of perspective drawing to imitate a camera
Jesus
movement.
Christ, it looks
And
hard.
holy, did they take it to a level never seen before. Each one of these shots would take weeks to complete for a mere few seconds. But they weren't thinking of budgets or awards, they wanted to push the medium because they could. I made video guides on each of the 12 principles in my Patreon, so consider checking them out if you're interested. What I want to talk about is what they discovered through the principles, since it changed animation forever.
Show, please. Oh, so cute.
What's wrong, Penny, honey? You tell old Rufus, huh?
Well, it was adoption day at the orphanage.
What happened?
A man and lady came and looked at me, but they chose the little red-headed girl.
Aww.
She was prettier than me.
Oh, she couldn't be.
No longer were these just drawings on the screen. No, these characters were alive. The principles gave birth to personality in animation.
True. This is so
The reason why
sad.
these movies marked our lives and even our
Stop
parents'
giving
lives
me,
was not just the animation
hambre.
being good. Nobody was
I'm
thinking,
now
wow,
hungry.
that was a good motion arc. To
Ooh.
us, these characters were real. I want you to think for a moment that these are drawings. Thousands of individual drawings. And behind those drawings, a person.
Once you see
True.
the film of your drawings, then you're hooked on animation. None of it can give you that same feeling of life that you get out of seeing this doggone little character projected up on the screen.
I want you to understand that it took them 10 years to go from Steamboat Willie to Snow White. Then 5 years to go from Elmer the Elephant to Dumbo. These principles allowed them to become actors. The
That's
timing
so
of each
depressing,
action,
bro.
the
I'm sorry.
deceleration so they cushion into each beautiful drawing with a masterful silhouette. Anticipations blend into smooth arcs of movement, while parts of the character lag behind so you can feel their energy. Without these principles and these unsung heroes who fought for decades to develop them, it wouldn't be possible.
Thankfully, I have tool
But
speed.
what
I don't
would
have to
happen
do
if we
anything by
pushed the
hand now.
principles to their very limit?
What is that?
If we were to name the best animator who ever lived, what would they need to achieve to earn that title? How about working on a single film for 31 years?
The best animator is a creator. Please follow him. Thank you.
A true masterpiece of the medium, all 2D animated. Or dominating the animation style of every
What
cartoon
is
character,
that?
mixed with live action and no constraints on the camera. How about creating the ultimate resource that could teach every animator in the world how to animate? Well, Richard Williams did all three. I don't think I can do justice to this man's entire life in this video, so I won't try. But I do want to talk about his legacy because it affects all of us. He hired some of the best animators who worked with Chuck Jones and Disney to be able to learn from them. After 2,500 commercials and his studio winning over 100 international awards, in 1964 he finally decided to animate his masterpiece, a 2D animated movie called The Thief and the Cobbler.
When you master a medium, in the old days,
He did that all alone, Jesus
then you
Christ.
did your masterpiece. And I'm going to do a masterpiece, I hope, if I can ever finish the thing.
In the end, the movie he envisioned never saw the light of day.
No!
But as for him creating his masterpiece, I believe he did. He poured all of that knowledge and
give me
experiences
the
into
book,
the
please.
true Bible of animation, the Animator's Survival Kit.
Yeah, how much it
While the
costs?
book is truly a wonderful resource, he went one step above this and recorded a masterclass for a group of students condensed into 16 videos. The amount of work that went into this is just unparalleled. Just look at the animated intro. It took 9 months to make because when he chose the cover illustration, he didn't think that one day he'll have to animate it. But he and his team did, because they can.
I'm loving this. How
You're watching
I have to get the book.
Billie Eilish. But did
He covers from the very basics of timing and spacing, literally a bouncing ball and charts, all the way to highly advanced concepts such as successive breaking of joints
Look at
to create
that.
fluidity without it being cartoony. Principles like overlap were broken down into systems that allow full control of the characters. He mastered the cycles to create complex walks.
Oh my
Squash and
god.
stretch with anticipation, creating powerful emotions. And everything is built upon the same 12 principles.
Everything I've ever done, and I was considered an innovator, it was all based on the basics. And the more I learned about the basics,
Where is
from
the
these
new
old
movie
birds,
that
the
this guy
more
was
my
working on? I want to
sophisticated
see it.
invention would occur, solidly on the basics. I really don't think there is anymore.
You would struggle to find an animator in today's industry who would not recommend these lectures, from all the top 3D studios, all the way to the indie scene. Even in Japan, anime has been impacted by
Let's
it.
go!
Is the survival kit perfect? No, of course not. The reality is some of these lessons are meant to teach you a style of animation that can be too expensive for most productions nowadays.
What's
It's
animation?
always better on ones. Saying that twos is better is an economic answer to an artistic
Oh,
question.
you do
It's always
24,
better on
yeah.
ones, always.
The main problem with these video lectures is they're really hard to find. They do sell a 16 DVD set, but it costs almost $1,000, so yeah, no. There are other ways that, as a YouTuber I cannot publicly suggest, but what I need to say is this.
Buy
we
the book.
cannot let these videos become lost media. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. If you're an animator looking for resources, there is a third book that I deem worthy of mentioning, The Character Animation Crash Course by Eric Goldberg. It is the best resource I have seen in allowing you to understand breakdowns, lip sync, and other very practical advice.
Okay,
With the rise of
how much
computer
it
animation,
costs?
the entire industry
Oh
transformed.
my god.
3D graphics and cutout animation software allowed to stop and analyze, to easily test new things and replay them. This accelerated new ways to create the illusion of movement, yet the 12 principles remained. How can these 12 principles remain unchanged for so long? Lately I've noticed lots of animators are struggling to make the leap between learning these principles to applying them and creating acting in animation. The problem is not in the principles, but rather our approach to them. They don't change because fundamentals are not meant to change, but they can expand. When Frank and Ollie wrote this book, the principles were not meant to be taken as commandments. Rather, they were hoping the next generation will use them as their springboard and continue to develop them. And many of them are.
Some people say there's 28 principles.
And by 30 years in the industry, I know 27 principles.
I'm not trying to argue if there should be more or less principles. I personally
What?
stick to the original 12 because I find them in everything I do.
I still read The Illusion of Life because I find out something new, every time I do.
But in this video, I focused on the origin so you can understand the mentality that these animators had when they created and perfected them. Just like the silly symphonies were a playground
many
to test
principles there are
anything and
then?
everything, you need to give yourself the chance to experiment by taking them not as an exact science, but rather pushing them to the limit, bending them, and even breaking them. That is the only way they can be learned and that they can evolve. I feel my channel will never be complete unless I make a video with my personal take on how to animate characters based on my own experience, so just give me a little more time because I have to animate a bunch. Going back to the first quote on the video, I think most people nowadays on 2024 probably feel that everything that is possible in terms of animation has been done already.
No.
It is our responsibility to prove them wrong. We are the next link in the chain that goes back over 100 years. And like I said in my video on how I made my first short film, making a living out of drawing silly cartoons is a privilege, and we need to work hard to earn that privilege. So we have to know the rules of the game in order to break them.
That's all I know, and there really isn't any more.
Behind every animation that you love, there's not only the 12 principles, but also 100 years of experience that allowed that animator to talk directly into your heart.
Do you consider yourself a romantic?
Why? Why?
Don't you?
What does that
Aren't we
mean?
all?
In
I don't
animation,
know.
we are truly standing on the shoulders of giants. Thank you, Frank and Ollie, and Richard, for making animation what it is today.
They're only drawings, but they create the illusion of life itself.
Bro, how do I get the books? Please someone make me a list of the books. And when I'm ready, I will buy them. Thank you. Oh wait, sorry. Oh, I order here my oracles too. Let me see. There's a course. Yeah, I want this. This. Okay, I should never forget this. I need to buy this. Why is Gumball there? No, I saw it. Are they all alive? Who is alive? Calm down, not now, but at least this one and this one. Wait, they dropped their dude to the animation department? No way. No way. You know that now Disney is making AI things to people do things. It's kinda bad, sorry. You know, poor Walt Disney, but okay. I love this video, thank you so much. Okay, now we have this.